where I did that, I put a pretty green and it's growing so fast. We went ahead and cut it today because we need it next couple of days.
Yeah.
Wet and snowy.
Well, our neighbor, he mows about every day, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Over there, Andy.
Yeah.
Looking nice.
He does.
He went to construction.
It doesn't take him long.
He's still kind of there.
I texted him the other day. You guys were gone. I said, man, can I come over and practice my putting? Your putting range in the front yard. He goes, well, let me cut a tee box over here and we can chip it in my front yard. I go, "Hey, that's a deal."
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We went to a top golf place.
Yes, I probably was too nice myself.
They were
I'm gonna person
Yeah.
to
I haven't played in a couple of years.
I guess, he might have been right down in Tennessee. And, I went back, and they did it here, so that's why he got a car.
Okay, I saw that.
Yeah, that must be a rental.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can photo the truck or not.
I just thought budget. Yes. Yeah, down to the estimate. Yeah.
As far as they know, Lynn's planning to be good. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. If you'll please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Elson, please take roll call.
Dave Brutlog,
Here.
Bill Boyd,
Here.
Kathy Brooks. Here. Jim Campbell,
Here.
Bill Morris,
Here.
Mark Cotty.
Here. First item on the agenda is approval of the open session minutes from the March 19th work session. They are lengthy minutes. I hope everyone's gone through them. I'd like to compliment Allison on the details she put in them. There's a lot of good information in there. Thank you, Allison. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the minutes from the March 19th work session? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion or questions? If not, Allison?
Bill Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Yes.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Bill Morris,
Yes.
Mark Cotty.
Yes. All right. Next item on the agenda is discussion on and approval of the MFT program. Phil, you want to?
Okay. I guess, is there any discussion on the MFT? We talked about it the last two meetings. Everybody seemed to be in agreement with everything. We would have probably approved it last meeting if I got it on the agenda. So, Okay, so I guess, I'd like to make a motion to approve the MFT as proposed.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second, any additional questions or discussion? I think Danny did a real good job putting everything together and explaining it to us, so.
Yep.
No other questions, Allison, roll call?
Bill Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks. Yes. Jim Campbell.
Yes.
Bill Morris.
Yes.
Mark Petty.
Yes.
Next topic is discussion and approval of the budget. Joe, would you like to share what you put together?
I just hope one everybody be on the same page. I mean, if you look at the budget, when I actually looked at what Dave sent out last, I don't know if this is a little change. But if you add up the revenues, it's 600,000 for the general fund. And if you add up all the labor costs, it's $500,000 just for the labor costs, which is salaries, pension, insurance, and I put the compensation for the board in there too, which we, a lot of temporary spend. But still, I mean, our budget is 600,000, 500,000 is labor, so we're really talking about 100,000 budget. And so, I think especially like this year where we're saying maybe we're 24,000 over, that's really 24,000 on 100,000 almost, right? I mean, if we had to cut 24,000, we'd have to cut another 100,000. It's complicated, I realize, because like we're moving 90,000 from this year to next year. So obviously we over budget labor and everything, but still, I just wanted to point out that, the budget's not 600,000, really, you can't do much about the labor. We have to keep thinking about, what we're spending the other stuff on, because it's not a lot as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's interesting that I've never added up the labor cost across all the departments. I've added it up for few.
That's what I got anyway. Somebody could tell me if I'm right. I kept the water out, right? So the water salaries aren't in the budget, just the general budget. It ends up, it was $500,000 is what I thought. So, we're doing $100,000 budget basically for a year.
I will ask at our mayor's meeting what some of the other towns are running at, if they've done the same type of comparison. I'm curious, so. But thanks for doing that work, Joe. Okay, the last decision on the budget was to include part of the money we should get from the federal government program, the latest program. So we added $25,000 of revenue into our general fund from that program, and I think we called it, what's the name of it, Sarah?
The program that you've been looking into, the art, you're talking about the art
Yeah, our,
program? Yeah, I don't have that on that final sheet there, so I wasn't here tonight exactly what you guys
Okay.
decided, but that will be on the final.
so it's not on here.
It's not on that final budget.
We're still $25,000.
Yes, but it will go there, so make sure that's where you want to take it around.
Just looking
before I
through
put it
there.
in. Yep.
So, if we add the $25,000 of art money in, there's a budget balance in.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think we'll get a lot more from art, but state still hasn't come out with anything, so we're just kind of in a wait state on that. Does anybody have any questions on the budget? We covered it in great detail. And I think we've got a pretty good budget plan for next year. I think the major thing a lot of our people are gonna see are improvements to streets and sidewalks. I believe we've got the money in here for the sidewalk out to Dollar General, for that part of it, it's gotta come out of the general fund. So. Are there any additional questions or comments? Not, is anybody ready to make a motion to approve the budget with the addition of the $25,000 revenue of our fund, which is not currently in the budget?
I'll make that motion to approve the budget.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll second it. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the budget for next year with the addition of ARP revenue of $25,000. Any last questions or comments from the board? If not, Allison, roll call.
Bill Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks.
Yes.
Jim Campbell.
Yes.
Lynn Morris. Yeah. Bill Morris.
Yes.
Mark Petty.
Yes.
All right, I want to thank all the trustees and all of our employees for working on this. It was a lot of work this year to get it where it's workable. So thanks to everybody. Next item on our agenda is discuss and vote on the TIF grant request. If you remember, we received a request from the Prairie View Homeowners Association for a $1,500 grant to come out of the TIF funds that would be used to complete a study that could cut the testing costs in half. And I know Kathy, you were gonna do a follow-up on whether or not the residents in the TIF district, that the trustees could vote on this.
Yes, the verbiage within the TIF documents say that the residents that are on the board can vote pertaining to that.
Okay.
Because one of the things that the village does is anyone who becomes a trustee, if they should have property in the TIF district, it is removed.
Okay, and I think we've been real diligent about doing that.
Yeah.
Removing trustees that live in the TIF district, removing their property. So I think we're in good shape there. I did ask Steve and Michelle to attend tonight, so if the board has any questions on the Prairie View Homeowners Association or their finances, they would be here to ask. We had asked about some of the finances, and Michelle did put something together and compared their 2020 and 2021 projected costs. Sarah has that on a spreadsheet if you want to put that up. Do we have the ability to zoom in on that at all?
I can do that. There you go. That's the most I can do, though. I can't zoom in.
Okay.
Well, the little, Sarah, the little bar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can do
yeah.
that, right, yeah, sorry, because it was in the shared screen, I couldn't, but apparently I can't even share.
That's what.
Perfect, okay. Is that
There
better?
we are. So you can kind of take a look and see what the different expense categories are. There's Ameren System Operator, Wayne Litweiler Excavating, Blue Springs, et cetera, and it's got some dollar amounts from 2020 and 2021 there. And like most things, expenses go up, just like our expenses go up. So,
Hey, Dave, so the lines that would be affected there, our system operator is Chris Perrin with Test 8. He's the one that suggested this to us about the system. If we could get it reclassified, it would actually lower the classification on it. We would get rid of the Ameren bill. That's to run a pump down there. So the pump would become unnecessary. So that goes away. And then our system operator, he wouldn't be needing to visit as often. So his cost would go down a little bit. But the other big cost that would reduce would be that line 7, lab analysis of samples. So instead of testing twice a month, they would drop down to testing once a month or maybe even less than that. So it just becomes less expensive to operate the system when it gets reclassified there. So the proposal that we had from the engineering firm, Shamlin, I think we shared that in the proposal or the request, was about $1,500 to gather the information that's needed, take that to the Illinois EPA and make that case to them and say, this is what they have. We're of the opinion that it should be reclassified based on the other types of systems that are out there. And if they approve of that, then we can get rid of some of these costs here, which will save the HOA quite a bit of money annually.
and I believe Michelle also said that that operator has done the same process for a subdivision with a lot more homes than ours attached to that
Yeah,
system.
he had one. I don't know where it is, but he does quite a few of them around the state. But one in the area has 37 homes attached to a filtration system. We only have 17 here in Prairie View, and one with 37 is classified at that lower level. So he's of the opinion that there should be no reason for us to be classified where we're at. feels pretty confident they can get it reclassified.
Okay, does everybody on the board have thoughts or questions or comments?
Steve and Michelle, what happens if, this proposal is sent to the EPA and then they reject it? What,
Then we weren't successful, so, yeah.
Everything would remain the same.
has your testing been coming out okay?
Yes.
The way it's been going?
Yep, yeah, there's no issue with the testing or anything like that.
But you actually, they're gonna alleviate some equipment?
There's
the
a,
pump or
yeah,
something?
there's an aerator pump down there, so it's like, there's like a two-stage treatment down there.
Right.
The first one is an aerator that the effluent that gathers from the houses goes down there and then is, there's air pumped into there, it's an aerator. So that pump has to be powered, and then there's a light down there. We know if the pump's out, that light goes out, all right? So if we are able to change that system, we would get rid of that aerator. So that would take the pump out of the question completely. So that electrical cost goes away. We have to replace the pump every few years, about every 3 or 4 years. It's like a small pump in your house. You know, they've got a finite lifespan. So there's a couple $100 cost every few years to replace the pump. And then the testing, from what I understand, the testing is less frequent if it's reclassified. So that affects the lab analysis cost as well.
So has the, so they double test, they test twice a month now?
I believe they are testing twice a month now.
Okay, so from what I remember, they used to just test one. And I think the HOA or the owners got in trouble for that, because I guess, they were finding chemicals or something in the water samples, so they forced them to go to 2.
We've heard that. We haven't found any documentation from the EPA that backs that up. So you have to understand that not all the information that we get about what's going on in the past 20 years, some of it's word of mouth. So, but I do believe you're right. I think at one point they were testing once a month, and I believe the E. coli was testing slightly high. So the EPA went to the twice a month, right? But I don't think they reclassified the system. I think the system's always been classified the same.
Okay.
So we're actually looking for a reclassification of the level of the system.
And this engineer feels pretty confident from what he's done in the past.
Yeah, so Chris Parent, like I said, they're out of Peru, Illinois, and he does a number of systems across the state. And then the engineering firm is Shamblin and Associates, they're out of Peru as well.
Okay.
And Chris brought it up. He's like, I don't know why you guys are classified the way you are, because your system doesn't meet the requirements for the classification. And he goes, let me talk to one of my engineer friends and see what he thinks. And then that Chris Parent came back and said, yeah, Don, the engineer, sees no reason why we couldn't get this reclassified. It's just going to take them putting together the information and then approaching the Illinois EPA with that and saying, we're asking for this to be reclassified.
Okay.
I don't know all the history on the GIF program. I mean, is there any guidelines on how we should look at requests? I mean, I know there's legal guidelines, but I mean, if money's supposed to be sent to benefit the whole community somehow, right? I mean, I don't see this as benefiting the whole community so much, but.
I guess, how do you define the whole community? You know, if we're putting in a sidewalk to Dollar General, does that benefit the whole community or just those that are gonna walk on the sidewalk? You know, that's a tough question to say it's gonna benefit the whole community.
Yeah, so I think Michelle once said last time that you think you get the money back in about a year if I mean it's successful and you think it's a very good chance it'll be successful. I mean, why are you here to request the money from the TIF then instead of just paying it when you're going to get the money back?
Well, because quite frankly, we can't afford to. Our budget, if you scroll down to the bottom, Sarah, if you don't mind. our total budget annually is around $18,000. And we're having trouble collecting enough HOA fees to cover that. So we're really scraping, by the time we get to the end of the year, we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel to get our cost paid. So we're doing everything we can to try to reduce those costs. And even though $1,500 is, to us, seems like money well spent for this study, quite frankly, we can't afford the extra $1,500 right now because our budget's so tight.
If it helps the budget, like, all in all, that's what you're trying to do, like, is there more things that the HOA would like to do if they had the money to do it? Like, if this is gonna alleviate some things in the budget, I mean, now you're gonna have, you could potentially have excess every year. Like, are there things that you guys want to do?
Not really, because
Okay.
the HOA, mainly, this is our obligation, is to take care of the filtration system and the common detention basin. So our only mandate is to take care of those things. If we can get those costs reduced, we're gonna reduce the HOA fees for the homeowners. Yeah, it's basically, we're gonna give the money back to them.
Yeah.
So when we do up our 2022 budget, if we can make it, $14,000, then that gets split amongst the membership and saving everybody in the subdivision money.
Right, that makes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to eliminate expense, so we want to get rid of whatever we
Yeah.
can.
If we get it lowered as well, we might be able to get more people to join the HOA voluntarily if the costs are lower as well.
That's what I was just gonna ask. Is there somebody trying to get more members in the HOA?
So you guys know some of this history, but there was a point in time where the developers weren't doing the paperwork correctly to get people in the HOA or, subject to the restricted covenants. So there's a section of the subdivision that is not encumbered by the restricted covenants, and they have absolutely no obligation legally to pay these dues. Some of those people are paying them voluntarily because they want to help support the whole subdivision. Some of them aren't. So that's part of the problem that we're running into and why it's so important for us to try to get these budget figures as low as we can. But I think we shared this with you guys the first meeting that we came to. We're not going to be able to fix all these issues around the HOA and the covenants and all that kind of stuff. What we're really hopeful for, and I'm glad to see that things are starting to move on that, is that we down the road get a sanitary sewer in Hudson. And that eliminates most of the issue down there with the filtration system. So that goes away. So, we're trying to keep things moving right now, get the bills paid, collect the money to pay those bills, work on the budget, try to get the budget reduced. We're kind of trying to attack this from several different directions at once. But the main goal is we get down the road a little ways and the village of Hudson gets that sewer system in, and then that takes care of about 90% of our expenses down there with the HOA.
I mean, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a sewer guy come talk to us a while back, and I believe he said the cost for the sewer would end up being $40 a month. Does anyone else remember that figure?
Yeah, probably.
So I mean, when we get this, I agree that sewer gets rid of what you have. But at that point, the sewers even will be $40 a month.
Right.
I mean, are you getting $40 a month from your people now?
Not all of them, no, not. So that'd be nice if everybody would kick in for this, but we've got 17 houses in Prairie View that are physically attached to that filtration system. So the other group of people, they're kind of like, well, hey, I'm not attached to it, so why should I be paying for it? That's the stance some people take. Everybody's attached to the retention basin that's down there, so the stormwater that comes out of your sump pump, the stormwater that gets collected off the roadways, all that goes down to the retention basin, and everybody's getting the benefit of that too. So the problem is that the legal work wasn't done correctly at the beginning. And the bottom line is there's a group of people, because of that improper legal work, that aren't legally obligated to pay those dues, so they're not paying.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Steve, of the people that are supposed to be legally in the HOA, how many of those people are paying dues?
We don't have the figures. We asked the accountant this morning for the figures for the dues for this year.
Ballpark, you're looking at half,
Yeah.
2/3?
2/3, I think, is about where we were last year. Is that about right?
I was gonna say, I know what the deficit that we had from last year was, I can tell you that, because we, like I said, we barely made costs, but
So, and we had to do some things at the end of the year last year, like, our last mowing of the retention basin and all that area, we skipped last year. Because we were running out of funds in our budget. We also, there were some trees that were growing in the retention basin. Those really need to get cleaned out and all that cleaned up. We skipped that because we didn't have the funds for that. So, like I said, we're operating on a shoestring. You know, we're right at the edge of our budget. So anything that we can do to try to get that budget reduced is going to be really helpful.
about 75% ballpark is paying the HOA dues. They are paying 75% ballpark.
Right.
Is those people are paying their HOA dues.
That's out of the 80 people, is it?
Well, there's actually some of those people that aren't even in the HOA, that there's people that aren't in the HOA but are attached to the filtration system too, so that makes things even more complicated. But some of those people are voluntarily writing checks. So, you know, we're getting support, we're getting quite a bit of support, although we're not getting all the support from some of the folks, which I understand. I mean, it's a complicated issue with a lot of emotion attached to it, unfortunately.
So I believe, you know, like I said, that the sewer guy told us it would be $40 a month for sewers, right? You're saying sewers will fix the problem. I agree. Get rid of it.
Right, and that'll go on the water bill, all the students.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you have 60 people paying, I don't know what 75% is, but 75% of 80 is 60, though. No, if you have 80. But if you have 60 people paying $40 a month, which is what the big damn sewer times 12 months, that's $28,000.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you should have plenty of money. You know, are they paying $20 a month even?
Well, $40 a month, that's $480 a year, right?
Yeah, times 60 houses.
So our dues aren't being here.
Oh, okay. So, but I'm saying when we get to sewers, if we say sewers is going to fix this, when we get to sewers, everyone will be paying $40 a month.
Right, but
But you can't convince them to say 40 now.
right, but the difference is you can put that $40 on everybody's bill.
Yeah, I understand.
I've got no way to bill people other than to say, here's a bill, would you please pay that? But if they don't, I've got no recourse against
Okay.
that. So, yeah, and our dues were $230, they were $230 annually.
It was 218 last year, this year we're on to 230.
Yeah, 218 and then 230.
So about $20 a month is what you're going to be able to pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just bottom line, we didn't know what if the TIF money would even qualify for this perhaps. So we had some conversation. It seemed like that it may, so we thought we would go ahead and put the request in to try to get some assistance from the village board to help do this study and maybe reduce our costs. And like I said, once again, we're ultimately just trying to move things down the road a few years until we can get the sanitary system in, and then that will take care of most of these issues.
All right, does anybody on the board have any additional questions or thoughts they want to share with the board, or questions to ask Steve and Michelle? Okay, and before we go further, I do want to thank you for coming and helping explain the request and everything.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, and thanks for considering it. We appreciate that.
So we need for the board to, we have a request, we need to decide yes or no on the request. I'll look for a motion to either approve or not approve the TIF request.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the TIF request for $1,500 for the Prairie View HOA. Are there any final questions or discussions? If not, Nelson, roll call.
Joe Boyd,
No.
Kathy Brooks,
Abstain.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Norris,
Yeah,
Phil Morris,
Yes.
Mark Petty.
Yes. Okay, so the motion has 4 yes votes, so the motion carries. So we will work with the HOA officers and our TIP administration group to move this ahead.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay, and thanks for coming in and presenting everything.
And if we leave, nobody's feelings will be hurt, right?
No, you're good.
Okay, fair enough. Right? All right, thank you.
We're gonna go into closed session in a few minutes anyway, but before we do, I don't get the open session on our agenda, so it is time for the open session portion. I know Aaron signed up. Was there anybody else that signed up? If not, Aaron, would you go ahead?
I just had something real quick. Last meeting I attended, I heard that we were having an issue with water loss in the village, Jeff was talking about. And I wanted to let you know, are any of you guys know anything about IRWA, which is the Illinois Rural Water Association? It's a group out there in Illinois that you can become a member of. And even if you're not a member, they actually do free leak detection. It's a federal grant. As a non-member, they'll come one day a year and actually do a free water detection throughout the town to see what they can find. If the village were to decide to become a member, the membership a year is $300. They will actually come once a month and do that leak detection for as long as you need them to come. Just something I wanted to put forward. I didn't know if anybody had ever heard of them. I printed off some stuff. I actually talked to one of their contacts today. They did say that Hudson is not a member at this time. But their leak detection contact, Chuck Woodward, he actually said he's available Friday if the village would want him to come and start a full day of leak detection.
Okay, when you say water detection, I'm not sure what that would include.
So what they do, me with the city of Wilmington, we deal with it. They actually come in with equipment. They'll actually tie it to your main, and they've got listening devices that they can actually hear water leaks throughout your system. And they'll actually track those leaks down and actually mark them for you so that you can go back, dig those areas up and fix those leaks. We were doing a demo about 2 years ago in Bloomington. They actually did the demo out in front of my parents' house who live off of Quanah Barnes. They actually found that their service line, I think they got a 3/4 inch service line leaking into the sewer, and no one had a clue that it was doing it. And they were able to actually pick that leak up and find that it was leaking into the sewer without actually seeing it. So what they do is they would come in and discuss it with you, and then they would actually physically work their way through town looking for leaks, starting with the major ones and working them down to the smaller ones. And like I said, as a member, they do it once a month if you schedule them. But it also, that membership gets you, there's a lot of training that they put on. There's a lot of other things that you get contacts with some of the other small towns that are hooked up with the Rural Association. It's a big organization that you can reach out and talk to other towns about these issues. I actually found out a little bit more about this one from Quanah. Quanah had leaks about 1.5 years ago, and they are actually a member of the association and called them in, and they started coming once a month until they got most of everything fixed. So, like I said, I just wanted to pass that information on to you guys to see if maybe it'd be something that would help.
I really appreciate it. We'll definitely be contacting them and maybe we can have them attend our next regular meeting and give us a presentation about the organization.
Yeah, and he, like I said, he actually said that he's free Friday if you guys wanted him to come and do your 1 free year that they did. Like I said, it's a federal grant that they apply for every year, which helps them with the small towns. So it's a completely free service.
So they're funded by federal grant primarily, and our dues would only be $300 a year.
Dues are $300 a year, and that gives you more to where you can have them come every month. But if not, they said you can still schedule them once a year, and they'll come do it for free, even if you're not a member.
So how much of an area can they cover in a day? Do you have any idea? That's a big question to ask.
Like I said, the company that we use, we pay, I think our budget last year for it was, I want to say maybe $90,000. And they did a pretty good section of town every year that we go through. But that's also a firm coming in with multiple guys, because we've got, I think it's over 50 miles of main, in the city of Bloomington. Here, you know, they may be able to cover, I actually don't want to say, I don't know how much they can cover in a day, but being a member, they'd be able to come once a month. So they could actually set that up and say, okay, we're gonna look at the worst parts of town and slowly work our way to the newer end, trying to track down some of these leaks. And what they've got, from my understanding, they can hear long distances. They'll actually be able to tell a long ways away that there's a leak and kind of work back to it and try to find it. But like I said, I put the guy who's in charge of the leak detection contact down. If it's something you guys feel would be valuable, check into
We'll
it.
definitely get a hold of them, and if the board thinks it's a good idea to make contact with, sure, see what we can do.
Yeah, I calculated that we're losing about 50,000 a year in revenue from the lost water, so.
Yeah, I mean, even if they only found one leak, we paid for it, they're over and above.
And I know in town, they move fairly fast, because they can hook up and they can listen long distances and hear if there's anything in the vicinity. They move fairly quick. Like I said, with as big as Bloomington is, I think we'll make it through the whole town, and they don't do it all year long. We have them coming in the summer months. I think they're gonna make it the whole town in maybe like 3 to 4 years. I have the entire city of Bloomington done. So,
That'd be fantastic. We have made some good progress, but we didn't realize where we were at until just the last couple of months, so. Any help we can get, we'll definitely want to talk to them. So I will, let's see, I'll work with you and Denny, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
That's really good, Aaron. I really appreciate this. So,
no problem.
thank you very much, Aaron. Did you have anything else for open session?
After that,
Okay. That ends the first part of our open session topics. Our next item on the agenda is to move into closed session to discuss performance reviews and salary increases. So somebody on the board will make a motion to move into closed session.
I'll make a motion to move into closed session for those items.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Allison, roll call.
Joe Boyd,
Yes.
Kathy Brooks,
Yeah.
Jim Campbell,
Yes.
Lynn Morris. Yeah. Bill Morris.
Yes.
Mark Hyde.
Yes.
All right, Sarah, you want to shut down the stream?